talk about is other type of edge fix techniques that we can use. So once we do the actual comp and we bring this into the bigger thing, we're going to combine them, as we did with these keyers. We combine a bunch of different techniques. It's the same basically process for despill. Even though this is technically not spill, again, it's just edge fixes of color that we don't want. So one other way is that sometimes we're going to have areas that edge extend doesn't work. And that's because our edges are more complicated, meaning, maybe the motion blur is quite a lot in this area, and it's just difficult to get an alpha that lines up perfectly with that type of motion blur. And for example, areas like this, edge extend is just not going to work at all because we have pretty much just semi-transparent blurriness. So it's not going to give you a good edge mat to work from. So one technique is just edge painting. So we just take roto paint on the red, green, and blue before it's pre-multiplied. And basically we just want to copy from a different part of the picture. This is a very tedious process. So I'm going to disable the edge extend for now. It's a very tedious process because you have to basically do it frame by frame. So this is a last resort. Really, you want to do the edge extends. You want to do the edge darkening or brightening, depending on your background. And you want to use your despill techniques, key light and stuff like that. So key light, edge extends, edge paint would be kind of coming next. And dynamic despill, again, we'll talk about it. But so let's just see what this is. If I take a roto paint and I take it to clone, make sure the output is set only to RGB. So this is going to be where people are probably going to mess up and probably ask me questions. But if you copy RGBA, you're changing your alpha, which we don't want to do. We just want to affect only the RGB layer. So as you see, if I clone stamp now, it doesn't change the alpha, but it still changes the RGB. And essentially, you're just putting these two circles really close together. So you hold control, put the circles really close together, and you're basically just clone stamping around the edge like this. So you're kind of doing a manual edge extend by painting exactly what you want. And if we pre-multiply that and we look at the end result, it does a really, really good job. So this is going to be for the most tricky areas. If you have really edges that for some reason your edge extend is not working, you go in there and you can sort of just go like this and paint around the edges to pull in color from the inside. Sometimes edge extends don't work great on these type of corners. So sometimes it won't grab the right color, and that might be an example of where you would also do this. So those little corner areas, stuff like that. So you can see as I go around, it pretty much just gets rid of the edge, but we still have that semi-transparent detail. So if I turn that off and on, you can see the difference. And I'll do it on a more complicated area up here. So this is a much worse area. So this would be sort of, we could try doing this roto paint. Probably I would do a complete color replacement, and I'll show you what that is in a second. But essentially, you could go here with this and start to paint in just, I don't know, some kind of gray colors that are present in other parts of the image, like this. And we go and we paint around and get rid of all this white stuff. And we just pretty much will probably go frame by frame and sort of do it like this. Because there's really not a lot of ways to automatically deal with a situation like this. So I'll just go through and kind of paint something up. And there's so much motion blur happening here that, if it's, if it's not the exact texture that's supposed to be in real life, you're never going to notice because there's a crazy amount of motion blur. We see like how much that fixes the problem. And once we start doing color correction on this as well, we're probably going to be darkening this. So our final is going to be something more close to that, where it's not going to be just like this gray blob. It's going to be sort of color corrected to the scene. But we're fixing all that highlight problem by just painting just in the colors. So that's pretty much that. And I'll pretty much just cover the last technique in the same video as well, which is color replacement. So it's kind of exactly what I just did, but instead of painting, we can just merge a color over. So for example, this what would be kind of annoying to do a roto paint, because I'd have to keep grabbing from somewhere like here and like painting all of this area, because again, the texture we're seeing on this rope is actually from the pillar behind, and we got rid of the pillar. So what we want to do is take a constant and sample a color like this. So I'll sample one of these colors up here. Make sure that it has an alpha, solid 1 for the alpha. And I'll just put a roto shape on it. And just to make sure we're in the right format as well, we need to make sure. So this is 2K, this is 4K. So let me just make sure, and we'll put a reformat 4K on it, 4K DCP. So put that here. And then I'll plug a roto into that. And I'll just roto like kind of a circle and pre-multiply that. And then we'll just merge that over the top of, before the reformat, just to put it over the top of this and pre-multiply. And now one thing you need to do in the merge over, you want to go into the settings of the merge, and you want to say output, switch it from RGBA to only RGB. So basically, if we have it set to the default and we're merging something over, it's kind of just merging it over, but we're also adding that color into the alpha. Like we're getting the alpha from this, which we don't really want. We only want to add this gray into the RGB, but keep the same alpha. So now we see that's basically the difference, just switching to RGB. So we're replacing the RGB and we're pre-multiplying. So now it's just taking on the color of that thing. And you probably see the concept already. So if I just take this shape now and I just put it where this rope is to get rid of that material behind, I can go here and I could put a pure gray and sort of do something like this. And now we're starting to fix that area. Now maybe we want to use a darker gray, so we could go here and start to adjust the color and bring it down a little bit. So you could do something like that. And once we do the color corrections to our scene, again, we'll probably bring the scene down. It'll be something more along the lines of this. So if we compare, that's before, that's after. So we're getting rid of some of the weird highlights and stuff that's not supposed to be in here. Obviously, you're going to have to be careful. And so this is going to be a lot of tedious work in order to get this at the level that we need. But that's part of it in terms of how we can do this. So that's a combination of area where I'll probably use a mix of paint and this color replacement technique. So one other thing to note is our color corrections will probably go here. So we'll do all these edge fixes on the pure footage before we do color corrections. So, you know, we're doing the copy the alpha. We'll do edge extends, so edge fixes in this area. And then we'll do color corrections to the scene in this area. And then if we're shrinking our footage or we're doing anything like that, we can do it here. And then we would pre-multiply and merge this over. So the only thing that would ever really come after a pre-multiply sometimes is like a light wrap. So sometimes you could put a light wrap after, and that node will do fine. If we enable this and turn up the intensity. So that will kind of contaminate our image from behind. And we're going to talk more about this once we get into the integration portion of this. But that's just something to keep in mind in terms of the order of this. And you can definitely go back and check out the PDF that we talked about, the animation. There's a PDF supplied with this class that shows you like the diagram in terms of the way, like if you're confused about where do I put things, just go reference that PDF and that will definitely help you out. So that's pretty much it for covering these different areas. We'll talk about the dynamic despill once we get to the final composite and a little bit closer. So we're going to do some different things. And yeah, so we'll move on into actually applying this into a script to start doing a little bit of despill. And also we're going to do a little bit of animation. So we might bounce back and forth now between integration and despill, because they usually are closely tied together. The background really will change the way you do this process. So if this background is animated, which we're going to do, that's going to affect how we do our despill process, and you'll see exactly how that works.